Hey guys, and welcome back to another What I Eat in a Week Christmas edition. So to start off Monday, I saw this recipe for a breakfast bread pudding, and I decided to make this huge big kind of meal out of it. So I made some roast potatoes, and then I made the bread pudding itself, which was like mushrooms and a bunch of like fresh thyme and stuff. I also decided to serve it with some baked beans, and I was using fresh thyme from the garden, which always feels really good, using fresh herbs. And I sauteed everything up. And I use some of my homemade just egg as like the base for it. It's so fun to have like an egg substitute that like works really well. And I put some chopped up bread in there and then added everything all together and mixed it up. Then I added some BioLife cheese and put it in a baking dish and baked it for 20 minutes at 350. And it came out amazing. It was literally like a stuffing for breakfast, and it was amazing. I definitely recommend. Later, I snacked on a little shortbread cookie that my sister made, and I also had a banana. And then for lunch, I made this white bean and risotto lemon soup, and it was one of the best soups. I say this about every soup I make, but it was one of the best soups I ever made. It was so like warm and delicious and like comforting. And you served it with a little bit of cashew cream, which makes it really creamy. And I served it with just a little bit of fresh lemon on top, and it was delicious. And then later, my sister made some chocolate crinkle cookies, which is a Christmas classic around our house. And I also made some hot cocoa while we decorated the Christmas tree. And this was a new brand of hot cocoa I was trying that's vegan, and it's really, really good. I also served it up with some dandy peppermint marshmallows, which are really good, but very pepperminty, so you gotta be prepared for that. I served it with a little bit of coconut cream on top, and it was really, really good. And we were watching Elf, so you can only guess what we were gonna have for dinner: spaghetti. So I served it up with a little bit of leftover cashew cream, nutritional yeast, and hemp hearts on top, and we also stacked on some popcorn. Tuesday for breakfast, I was really in the mood for some chicken and waffles, so I whipped up some quick waffle batter, and look, it's gonna be with my new gingerbread waffle maker, which is literally the cutest thing. So you can make either a baby gingerbread or a whole one, and I just had a baby gingerbread with some Nutella just to test it out, test the waters. And I topped it with the Soul brand chicken nuggets, which are my ride or die, and it was amazing. And then I had to prep the buns that I was making for dinner, and later I had some chocolate covered almonds and a little bit of herbal tea. And for lunch, I made this sweet potato dish. And the recipe is actually from Papua New Guinea, and it has got like orange juice and butter and a bunch of different like warm spices and stuff. And then you add in some oat or almond milk or whatever, and then you mash it up, make it really creamy, put it back in the shells, top it with cheese, and it's garlicky and like warm and like so creamy. It was amazing. And then I started making the buns for dinner, so I just rolled them out. I also snacked on a little cookie while I was cooking. And then I grilled up some pineapple, prepared the avocado, and yeah, it was a delicious, and I used my favorite brand, once again, Soul. I like, sponsor me, guys. You guys are absolutely amazing. And yeah, this burger just hits the spot every time. Wednesday for breakfast, I had something that honestly I have become absolutely obsessed with. You mix a little bit of yogurt with an egg or egg substitute, like just egg. Add a little bit of maple syrup, so you're kind of making like a custardy situation. You push down some bread, put it inside, top it with some blueberries. I have frozen ones from the summer. Toast that at 400 for like 15 minutes. Sprinkle it with some powdered sugar on top, and it is amazing. Later, I snacked on a little chocolate chip cookie as well, and I had some french fries with A&W. And then for lunch, I decided to make this like Christmassy salad. So you start off by making a simple pico de gallo. You add in some cooked green lentils, mix that all together, add in some kale pesto and vegan feta, and serve that up with some tortilla chips. It is such a light and refreshing kind of like snack. It was delicious. And then for dinner, PSA, use your broccoli stalks because they're just as nutritious and delicious as the florets. So I was making broccoli with some tofu and green rice. So I made a basic kind of green goddess dressing with parsley and kale and spinach and all kinds of stuff. And who else feels like they totally just have their life together when they use fresh herbs? Because I know I do. And so I warmed that all up, and I poured the broccoli in with the rice and the sauce on top, mix it all together. It looks so beautiful. Like, it just looks like amazing. I added some teriyaki sauce on top of the crispy tofu, served that all up together. I put a little bit of radishes on top of the rice as well and some extra sauce. It was honestly one of my favorite meals of the week. The rice was just so flavorful and so amazing. And then for dinner, I actually made a lemon meringue pie. I forgot to film all of it, but it was the first time I successfully made meringue with chickpea juice, so I was really proud. Thursday for breakfast, I decided to make some deviled eggs, but with mini potatoes. I used to make this recipe all the time. And then I also decided to make a little smoothie, but with a twist. I made my favorite smoothie, which is like my strawberry banana one with spinach and stuff. But I made half of it just with the strawberry and banana to make it pinkish red, and then half with the spirulina and the spinach to make it green. And then I did this little like layering marble thing to make it like a beautiful Christmas smoothie. How beautiful is that? It was almost too pretty to eat. I was obsessed with it. Then for the potatoes, you just boil them, scoop out the middles, add that into a bowl, add some veganaise, some Dijon mustard, apple cider, black salt for like that eggy flavor. And then you can fill it in really nicely with a piping bag, but I was too lazy and hungry. Story of my life. And so I just like filled it in really roughly with like a spoon. You add a little bit of paprika and it is so delicious. If you miss deviled egg bites, you'll love those. And then later on, we were making some Christmas cookies to send to my Grammy and Grampy. So we were just making, lots of cookies, dancing in the kitchen. It was a really good time. And then later on, I just snacked on some pretzels and hummus. I had a really hard time opening the bag, as you can see. But yeah, I just had that as a little snack. And then later for lunch, I made some Monte Cristo sandwiches, which is basically like a turkey kind of meat sandwich with cheese and stuff, but you dip it in egg, which is kind of fun. And I served it up with a little bit of carrot sticks and ranch, and it was really, really delicious. It was way too hot when I bit into it and I burnt my mouth, but what else is new? But yeah, it was really, really delicious. You can see the steam. And then later I had a glass of kefir, which I could drink by the bottle, people. It is, if you used to love Yolp, you would love that stuff. And then I shredded up a block of tofu because for dinner I was making pulled pork sandwiches with cranberry and one of my micro chop salads to go along with it. I love micro chop salads to eat, but anyone who knows me knows like I like to cut things big and not small, so it's definitely a struggle in that sense. And then I totally forgot that we didn't have any barbecue sauce, so I had to whip up just kind of like a quick makeshift one, put that back in the oven. Look at that, delicious. And then I toasted up the buns with a little bit of butter and added the cranberry and a little bit of homemade coleslaw as well. It was delicious, and the salad turned out amazing as well. And I had a little crinkle cookie for dessert. So for breakfast, I decided to make this vegan steak and egg sandwich because I saw this picture of one and I was like, oh my god, I have to have that. So I scored some tofu just diagonally and made like a little steak fillet with it and added a bunch of salt and pepper and then fried it until it was crispy. And then I also made myself a little chestnut praline latte in my adorable little Christmas tree mug. How cute is it? It is a little hard to use in the winter, not gonna lie, because you obviously have to have iced drinks in it, but I make it work. And then after the tofu is crispy, you add in a little bit of veg broth and cook that down. And then I added a piece of cheese to a little just egg slice, put some chipotle and some regular mayo on my buns, a little bit of lettuce, and some pickled jalapenos. Look how divine that looks. The latte was delicious, and the sandwich was honestly out of this world. Later, I made myself some little gingerbread men cookies. Well, I didn't make them. They were leftover ones. I just put icing and decorated them with some Unreal M&Ms. And then lunch was weird. I saw these on Lizzo's TikTok. It's collard wraps, tofurkey, hummus, and a pickle. It sounds so weird, but it's actually like really good. And then for dinner, I made some scalloped potatoes and some carrots. And I had never made actually homemade vegan scalloped potatoes before, so I don't think I've actually had scalloped potatoes in years, but I had like a craving for them. So I just made like a nice little like cream sauce to go in between them, cut up my potatoes really small, baked that, and then for my main course, I kind of just sauteed up some mushrooms, some kale, some black beans, and I served that with some cream corn and some regular corn. And it was 10 out of 10. It was delicious. It was just like a nice little array of good stuff. And then my sister got me these two new cookies to try, and they were really delicious. So we snacked on those for dessert, as well as some grapes, and we all played Pictionary, which was super fun. Then I had to make my breakfast for tomorrow, at least the dough for it. I made my favorite overnight loaf recipe, but I added cranberries for a little festive cheer. It looked so beautiful by morning. I was so excited to eat it. I also had one of my pink vitamin drinks while I was waiting. And I made a homemade cashew cheese to go with it. It's got a bunch of nutritional yeast and garlic, and it's so tasty. I also made another chestnut praline latte because your girl's obsessed, and it's just perfect with a little bit of oat nog as well. Look at this little beauty. It's honestly one of the prettiest loaves of bread I've ever made. It is just perfect. So I served that up with a little bit of butter on one piece, jam on the other, and my garlicky nut cheese on the last one with a little bit of sprouts on top, and they were all delicious. Then I had to marinate my tofu for dinner, so I scored a bunch of big pieces of tofu, and I was making a salmon dish with it. So I put a bunch of like soy sauce and seaweed and a bunch of different flavors and a beetroot for the color, and I had to let that tofu sit for a couple hours. Then for lunch I decided to make some soup. I also snacked on a couple of those Biscoff cookies, which are actually accidentally vegan. The soup is this 10 spice immune boosting soup that is one of our favorite go-tos. I also had a sugar cookie while we were doing a little pine cone craft, and I served the soup with a little bit of tofutti on top. It's so warming and delicious, perfect for this time of year. And then I was making some Yorkshire puddings to go with salmon for dinner. Then I put a maple soy sauce glaze on top and a little bit of rice paper to make the kind of skin type thing on the bottom. I made some mashed potatoes and served it with some corn. It was so good, you guys. For breakfast on Sunday, I started off with some juice. I had some celery that was going bad in the fridge, so I just made some quick celery juice. And then I didn't have like all my usual stuff to make my red juice, but it was kind of just like a makeshift with like a beet and a couple apples and stuff, which was really good. Then, in honor of my grandma, I made some latkes, which was the arm workout of the century. And I squeezed out all the potato juice out of them and added some just egg and fried them up. And not to brag, but my mom said that these were the best latkes she's ever had, so that's pretty high praise. I served them with some green onions on top, some applesauce, and of course some sour cream, and they were divine. Like, they were so good. So good I did a little happy dance. And then I had a little sugar cookie after, and I made these pinwheel wraps for lunch. And I used this new cream cheese that I wasn't like too big of a fan of. And I also made it on a sun-dried tomato wrap, which for some reason really make me feel icky. So they would have been good, I think, if I hadn't have done those two things. But like the innards, they were good. And then my sister made homemade cupcakes, like dupes of the ones that I used to love at the grocery store. And they're so much better than the grocery store ones too. They're delicious. Then I made some hot cocoa and some Chex-Mex mix, try and say that 10 times fast, with some like butter and all this stuff that I put in the oven to bake. It was so delicious. I burned it maybe just a little bit, but it was really good. Then we wrapped some presents and watched some old Disney classics. And then it got really late, so we ended up just making some box mac and cheese. And the Daiya one is actually not even that bad if you add butter and milk and don't put the whole packet of the Daiya. I also added a little bit of kale for health. And surprise, I accidentally recorded an extra day, so bonus day. I made some vegan sausage rolls for breakfast, which was like a really simple kind of like innard thing with like lentils and stuff, and then just some puff pastry, which were delicious. I served that up with a little bit of mustard. And then with the extra little bits that I had left of the sausage, I made just like a really makeshift chili that I was going to use for dinner. And then I just had a warm cup of coffee with some cream and sugar and 2 cookies, and I snacked on a bell pepper later. And then by dinner I was ravenous, so I made a 7-layer bean dip and put together all the little parts of it, And then I was making pretzels and hot dogs because we were having a homemade concert night because Josh Groban, my mom's favorite singer, was doing like an at-home live concert live stream thing. And yeah, we had all just hot dogs with chili and cheese, and I made some homemade cinnamon sugar pretzels, and the whole night was amazing. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and happy holidays.